Hey, what's up YouTube? Down in the Smartphone Guy coming back at you with another video, and tonight I want to share with you why I think that this phone right here is currently the best phone that you can get for under $100. And a little caveat here, we're talking about the best unlocked phone. So it's a phone that you can get for under $100 that's unlocked for all carriers. So it'll work with Sprint, T-Mobile, Verizon, Metro PCS, AT&T, Cricket, all of the above. It will work, and I'm currently using it with T-Mobile, and so far my experience has been great. You can see that I'm getting excellent coverage. Now that's true with just about any phone because of where I live. My T-Mobile coverage is fantastic, but with that being said, it's been just as good as any other phone that I've had with T-Mobile, even a T-Mobile phone. So no problems there whatsoever. Call quality, messaging, no problems at all. So let's talk about why this phone is such a great phone for under $100. So let's get into the build quality first. So the build quality, it's definitely a plastic phone. There's nothing, denying that. It's certainly not the highest end build by any means. It's not a metal back. It's not a glass back. Thank goodness. I don't really like glass back, but it's a plastic back. One nice thing about that is the fact that you can actually remove the battery. So, maybe if something happened to your battery for some reason, or you want a second battery, you can always replace it if you need to. So you can see here there's space for your SIM card. This is a micro SD card expansion slot, so you can throw in, I believe, up to 512 gigabytes. Don't quote me on that one, though. I didn't actually double check that before I did this. I've only put a 32 gig in there just to test it out, and it does allow you to use that as adaptable storage, so you can add that and move apps over to it with no problem. So that's a thumbs up. So thank you to Motorola for that. So in terms of build quality, my favorite thing is, of course, the fact that it has a fingerprint sensor, which is a fantastic thing for a phone at this price point, and it works very, very well. You can see I have the ad-supported version, so the ad-supported version will come with these little lock screen ads right here. You can pay the extra $30 to get rid of that, and then when you hit your fingerprint, it will jump you straight to your home screen. But you're gonna have to pay an extra $30 to get rid of those ads. I think they're not really that intrusive, but for some people they might be. But the main thing I think that's great about this build quality is the screen. It's only 720p, but I will say this, to me, this is the best looking 720p display that I've probably ever seen on a phone. I can't think of a phone that has a more vibrant 720p display. Maybe the J7. The J7 for Samsung, that might be, but this is probably right up there with that one. It's not an AMOLED display, but it is a very nice LCD display. So next thing I want to talk about is the performance. So this has the Snapdragon 425 processor, and so far the processing has been no problem whatsoever. So it only has 2 gigs of RAM. You can see that it flies through things quite well. Heavy games, may bog it down, but overall, I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised with how well this thing performs for only having a 425 processor. That's 1.4 gigahertz, 2 gigs of RAM, but so far, so good. Now I'm getting a bunch of notifications right now, but you can see that scrolling, no problem. You can see there's little gaps in there in the scrolling, but this is, again, only a phone that costs $100, and it performs very, very well. Now, when we look at Geekbench scores, now, these will make it look not so great, but performance is a whole lot better than what the scores say. So multi-core score of 1824, single core score of 648. But overall, I would say that the performance is very snappy. No major hiccups for me. Gaming has been okay. Beach Buggy Racing, NBA Jam, those are the 2 games I play the most. And both of those games have been running very well on this phone. So next I want to talk about is the storage. We've already talked about that actually, so I'm going to skip over that and talk about battery life, because the battery life on this phone for me so far has been absolutely fantastic. So just to kind of give you an idea, I have not charged this at all today. I charged it all 100% this morning, and you can see I'm at 20% at 11 o'clock at night, so it easily got through the full day using it quite heavily. And let's see, go into my battery statistics here. And this is just kind of an average day. So I'm down to 20%, but let's look at the screen on time. So 5 hours and 34 minutes. So you're looking at a little over 6 hours, maybe 6.5 hours of screen on time that I would get if I let it go all the way to 0% today. So that's pretty good. That's easily a day. You're not going to have any trouble getting through a day most days unless you're using it super heavy and gaming a bunch. This phone will get you through a full day of usage. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the software. So Motorola, for me, makes some of the best software out there on top of Android. So let's talk about here. Let's go into the settings. And you can see that it is running Android 7.1.1, so I'll bring it back up here. So Android 7.1.1. So it's basically stock Android. There's really nothing in this that is very different from stock Android except one thing, and I think that it is fantastic. This is the Moto app. And within the Moto app, we have a few actions. So you can either use one button nav or swipe to shrink the screen. So I actually have them both turned on. One button nav works. Swipe to shrink screen will only work in certain apps. So let's see if I can get it to work in a particular app. So to do that, you're going to swipe from the corner. See, now this one's actually going to make it refresh the page. So it will work in certain apps, but it won't in others. But the one button nav works fantastic. Essentially what it does is it gets rid of the software keys here. So you can see if I turn it off, we have software keys. If I turn it back on, I can use one button nav. So I'm going to, let's go into Chrome again. We were looking at the OnePlus 5, and I'm going to swipe back, and it will take me back to my last website. So back into Swappa, and I can hit to the right to go into my recent apps. So you can see I am using this thing like crazy without ever killing any apps. And it's doing just fine with all that. So that's pretty awesome. So those are really the only major tweaks they give to Android, and I think that they are very useful tweaks. One other thing is the Moto Display, which if you're not familiar with, Moto Display will, when you have your phone sitting down, and like let's say you take it out of your pocket, it will give you some of your notifications on here. Now it's not going to work right now because I didn't have it on my pocket, but that is the Moto Display. It'll give you some notifications on when you have that black screen, which is a nice option as well. So next thing I want to talk about is the camera quality. So I'm going to show some pictures in a little bit, but I will say this, that the camera quality has been pleasantly, surprisingly good. Now, it only has a 5 megapixel camera up front. You can see the sensor kind of going there. And on the back, we only have an 8 megapixel camera. But overall, they actually shoot fairly good pictures. That's kind of a low light. These are both low light pictures with the front-facing selfie camera. That's my son. And again, these pictures will be at the end of the video, so you'll get the full resolution there. But you can kind of see what the camera quality is like. But yeah, so I've actually been quite pleasantly surprised at how good the picture quality is. Now, it's certainly not going to compete with the best phones out there. It's not anywhere near the HTC U11. It's not anywhere near the Samsung Galaxy S8. But you won't be embarrassed posting pictures to Facebook or Instagram with this phone. And so that's a thumbs up for the cameras. Even though they're not the highest megapixels, they still are quite good. The last thing I want to talk about is the speaker on the front. So this is a front-facing speaker right up here. And let's go ahead and take a listen to it so you guys can get an idea of what that speaker sounds like. So we're going to go in here. So I actually subscribe to Amazon Music for, right now you can get 4 months for 99 cents. So that's a pretty fantastic deal, I think. So let's jump into 50 most played songs. Oh, that's the explicit version. So it's a front-facing speaker up here. Put it right up to my microphone. Okay, so either way, the point being is that it's a nice speaker. It's certainly not the loudest speaker you're going to get, but it is nice that it's front-facing. And actually it sounds fairly decent, I think. So I think that right now this phone is darn near the complete package for $100. Now, it's certainly not a complete package in terms of comparison to this, the HTC 11. This phone, for me, is the complete package, but this phone for $100 does a darn good job of competing with mid-range phones. And, you know, honestly, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with really anything that this phone can do. There are just little things, maybe, you know, every once in a while you'll run into a performance hiccup, but overall it's a fantastic device for under $100. So definitely check it out. Links down in the description. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.